In this video, I will talk about the physiological mechanism and how and why a peanut allergy occurs. To understand this mechanism, you first need to understand our body's immune response. The immune system is like the body's defense force. It protects us from infections and diseases by fighting off invaders such as bacteria, viruses, and other harmful agents. The key players of the immune response are called white blood cells. They work like the police patrolling around our bodies, scanning for anything unfamiliar like germs or foreign particles, and ready to respond if needed. Have you ever fallen and hurt your knee and within a few minutes experienced redness, swelling, and pain? This is called inflammation. When the immune cells come across harmful foreign pathogens, it can recognize them using receptor molecules that are on their cell surface, which are called pattern recognition receptors. These receptors can distinguish between the body's own molecules and foreign invaders and thereby bind to these invaders. Following the recognition of this harmful pathogen, white blood cells can be activated and start working together to attack and eliminate the invader. There are various types and functions of white blood cells. Mast cells release granules that amplify inflammation by attracting more white blood cells from the bloodstream. There are phagocytes like macrophages, dendritic cells, and neutrophils that engulf and digest these invading organisms. This initial inflammation process is called the innate immune response. After some time passes, these harmful pathogens can travel to lymph nodes or secondary lymphoid organs, which are places where lymphocytes, such as B and T cells, can be activated. Upon encountering the foreign particle, B and T cells can be activated and transform into versions that can specifically recognize and combat that particle. It's similar to how the police can recognize the faces of wanted criminals. We will look into B cells in particular since they are directly relevant to peanut allergy that we will discuss in a bit. Naive B cells, when activated, can transform into plasma B cells that secrete special proteins called antibodies. Antibodies, also known as immunoglobulins, are Y-shaped proteins that bind to antigens of foreign pathogens like viruses or bacteria. Parts of these foreign pathogens that lead to the production of antibodies they could bind to are called antigens. Antigen binding an antibody is similar to how two puzzle pieces come together. The shape of a side of a puzzle piece can fit into only one other specific puzzle piece. Likewise, each antibody is very specific and it matches one particular antigen on an invader. When these antibodies arrive at the site of infection, they can directly bind to a specific antigens. This specificity allows them to combat the pathogens through various methods, like binding to the pathogen and thereby marking them for destruction. But our immune system is imperfect, and sometimes it might attack substances that aren't harmful to our body. This is exactly why some people develop allergies. An allergy is an immune response caused by the hypersensitivity of the immune system to harmless substances, which we call allergens. An allergen is a substance that in some people can be mistakenly identified as a threat by the immune system and causes an allergic reaction. Some common allergens include foods like milk, eggs, fish, wheat, crabs, and most importantly to our video, peanuts. Now let's dive into how peanut allergies occur, starting from peanut digestion. Normally, when you eat food, your body breaks down proteins in the stomach and intestines. However, peanuts have certain characteristics that make them tough for the body to fully break down. For instance, some proteins in peanuts, like RAH2 and RAH3, can resist being chopped up by the digestive enzymes. This means that larger pieces of peanut proteins can end up in our gut, which is not typical for most foods. When these larger peanut protein pieces enter the gut, they retain their shape and structure, making it easier for our body's immune system to notice. The immune system, which normally guards the body against infections and diseases, mistakenly sees these proteins as a threat. Let's say that a 4-year-old boy named Matt eats peanuts for the first time, and unfortunately, his immune system reacts by mistaking the peanut protein as a harmful pathogen. This would first lead to the innate immune response, where the local immune cells at the site of peanut exposure are activated. And later, the adaptive immune response steps in when the peanut antigens travel to our lymph nodes or secondary lymphoid organs and thereby activate the naive B and T cells. These B and T cells now transform into versions that can specifically recognize the peanut antigens. And B cells in particular can produce antibodies. Now, this is where our previous discussion on antibodies comes to importance. As a reminder, antibodies are special proteins produced by B cells, and they can target specific antigens. There are 5 different classes of antibodies, from IgA, IgG, IgM, IgD, and IgE, and each can target harmful pathogens in various ways. Allergic reactions to food are largely caused by a group of antibodies called IgE. In response to this perceived threat from peanut proteins, the immune system uses IgE antibodies to attack the peanut proteins. In people with peanut allergies, their immune system has mistakenly learned to fight off peanut proteins using IgE. Then how does IgE attack peanut proteins? These IgE antibodies can attach to immune cells called mast cells. Mast cells were mentioned earlier as one of the white blood cell types that help combat pathogens during an immune response. They're like large containers filled with granular chemicals like histamine and other immune reactive compounds that amplify inflammation. When peanut proteins bind to the IgE antibodies, they trigger the mast cells to release these granules and other inflammatory mediators. Mast cell degranulation dilates and increases leakiness of blood vessels, interacts with nerve endings, and thereby attracts even more immune cells from the bloodstream and thereby amplifies inflammation. This causes the symptoms of an allergic reaction, such as itching, swelling, and difficulty breathing. Now, why do some people have lifelong peanut allergies? This is because of the memory response. When B cells are activated, they can also create memory B cells that can stay in the body in the long term to prevent future re-exposures. This means that this memory subtype of these cells can help the immune system recall past threats like old allergens or past infections for future needs. Now, the peanut antigen has become the wanted criminal familiarized by the cops. And now the immune cells can recognize and respond quickly when they encounter them again. An individual with a lifelong peanut allergy carries memory B cells that specifically remember peanut proteins, pre-circulating IgE antibodies against peanut proteins, as well as long-lived plasma cells that are constantly producing IgE antibodies even when there are no peanut antigens present. So remember Matt, who had his first bite of peanuts at the age of 4. What if he unknowingly eats, for instance, a chocolate with peanuts the second time? Now, if that happens, he would again have a rapid inflammatory response due to these pre-circulating antibodies and memory B cells. The pre-circulating IgE antibodies would immediately bind to the peanut antigens and cause mast cell degranulation. Memory B cells would quickly transform into plasma cells that produce even more IgE antibodies. This explains why an individual who has previously had an allergic reaction to peanuts will most likely have a rapid allergic reaction upon consuming peanuts again. Now, this concludes our discussion on how peanut allergy occurs in the human body. Thank you.